Facts about Jamaica they don't teach you in schools, Rama said. How Curly Locks Hewitt became infamous. In the months following a peace treaty brokered between politically warring factions in the capital, armed political enforcers from both sides turned their attention and energies to staging daring bank and payroll robberies in various sections of the city. Their favored mode of transport were Honda 354 and Honda 50 motorcycles. Powerful handguns, revolvers, machine guns, and M16 rifles were also part of the bank robbers' survival kit. During the years leading up to the 1980 elections, arsenals of guns and ammunition flowed into the island through the island's porous coastline and the unseeing eyes of corrupt and fearful customs officials. Lured by the glamour and ill-gotten gains of the bank robbers in the area, Hewitt put down his Bible and joined their ranks. It was then that he was given the moniker, Curly Locks, which had nothing to do with him being a Rastafarian, but because of his straight Indian hair. The gangster quickly learned that dishing out death and other forms of cruel punishment with impunity was the formula to gaining notoriety in the criminal underworld. One of his first brushes with the brutality of life in a political garrison came during the attempt by the government to evict residents of Rema for the non-payment of rent. On February 2nd, 1977, government bailiffs, police officers, and an angry mob of younglists converged on the 7th Street border and attempted to chase out the Rema residents under the watchful eye of Member of Parliament Anthony Spalding. Spalding's Ministry of Housing had a year earlier approved the eviction of tenants for the non-payment of rent. Despite efforts by some cops on the scene to disperse the invaders, the mob, which included several gunmen, stormed the community. The besieged Rema residents were outnumbered and, according to a man who claimed to be a resident at the time, Push Wood and Curly Locks both used cunning to fend off the attackers. Push Wood and Locks dress up in red and black and join up with the younglest dem. When them go into the building, them start stab man and push them in corners inside the buildings, the man said. 8 people were reportedly killed by the Rema defenders, resulting in the abortion of the eviction attempt by JDF soldiers, who trained their weapons on the armed invaders, who came scurrying out of the building with their hands above their heads. One man was killed after he failed to stop and hand over his weapon to the soldiers. Dressed in a bush jacket and knitted cap, a defeated Spalding left the scene. Commenting on the botched eviction attempt, retired Justice Ronald Small described the incident as a horrible stain on this nation's history. With the death of Push Wood, his second-in-command, Curly Locks grabbed the leadership reins of the Rema 13 gang. Included among the ranks of the fearsome gang were men known as Bigness, Pearl Harbor, Little Jack, Steeler, Mutt, Peasy, 39, Riley, and Bobo Charles. The gang was known to stage multiple robberies, and each member was sometimes armed with 2 guns or more, police said. Many persons inside Rema and outside the garrison community met their deaths at the hands of the Rema 13. But Curly Locks' lust for blood earned him the respect of his counterparts, Claudius Massop, and his successor, Lloyd Lester Coke, better known as Jim Brown, from Tivoli Gardens. There are many stories about his cruelty. For example, Curly Locks, in a jealous rage, was reported to have shot and injured one of his women before impregnating her sister months afterwards. When the woman was 8 months pregnant, Curly Locks ended her life. He was also known to take on police patrols single-handedly. Senior Superintendent Calvin Benjamin was one cop who came face-to-face with the dreaded Curly Locks. Residents of the area say Curly Locks surprised Benjamin, who was a young policeman at the time, and a colleague as they walked along 4th Street in the community. Benjamin confirmed that the gunman was brazen in his attack. He opened fire at us, and it was a miracle that no one was injured. He was really bold, Benjamin told the Sunday Observer. Curly Locks was sentenced for armed robbery, and after his release, managed to travel to North America and Europe, where he reportedly shoved a man off a building before hightailing it back to Jamaica, where he continued his life of crime. But like many before him, Curly Locks lived by the gun and died by it. His demise came at the hands of a young enforcer from Tivoli Gardens with whom he had a dispute inside the garrison community. The enforcer, known as Paperman, had refused Curly Locks entry to a yard where Jim Brown was handling the weekly issuing of checks for casual work to persons in Tivoli Gardens, Rosetown, and Rema. Paperman, not knowing that he was dealing with the Rama Don, reportedly called Curly Locks an insipid coolie boy and threatened to thump him in his mouth before chasing him away from the entrance to the premises. Curly Locks left the scene and returned with a .357 Magnum revolver, and after a brief scuffle reportedly pistol-whipped Paperman, dislodging his right eye. Paperman's life was spared after Jim Brown and other top Tivoli Gardens enforcers rushed in and diffused the situation, all the time explaining to Paperman that the coolie boy was in fact the notorious Curly Locks. Weeks later, Curly Locks was ambushed and shot as he rode his Honda motorbike in West Kingston. The trigger man was a one-eyed Paperman who would 2 weeks later be cut down by police bullets. Like and follow for more Pringle design.